Elder millennials, what stereotype aggravates you the most? The use of the term millennial to refer to the general young person. As a younger millennial, I hate PPL bringing up that I eat Tide Pods. Ma'am, PPL my age were out of college and in the working world by the time TikTok challenges were a thing. I had to go on a business trip and work with an older lady who was just about ready to retire. I manage trade shows and travel around North America to convention centers and hotels organizing events. She had an old school way of checking inventory by hand. I'm pretty good with Excel and Salesforce, so I had a faster way of doing it. I got the job done like I've been doing for years and left so I could go enjoy Vancouver. We've all heard the saying, work smarter, not harder. She couldn't get it through her head that the workday was done for me. I found out from another colleague that she called me a lazy entitled millennial with no work ethic. So that's the stereotype I hate. I busted my ass and paid my way through college. I worked long hours and kissed ass to get to the position I'm in. I know plenty of other young professionals that have done the same. This idea from baby boomers that we're entitled or lazy gets tiresome. Edit, I didn't expect this to blow up overnight. I should mention what happened to her, I guess. When we returned from the trip, I guess the organization holding the event complained about her for having a nasty attitude. They asked that we send someone different for the next trade show. I wasn't the only one that had issues working with her. The company ended up paying her off to just retire a few months later. And for all you Canadians messaging me if I enjoyed Vancouver. Before the pandemic I would travel every other week to a different city and Vancouver is one of my favorite places I've been. I love your country. When borders open back up I'll be taking a vacation to Montreal. In my office if you finish the arduous tasks you are given early, they just expect more work. They don't care about the quantity or quality, just that you punch in for 8 hours a day. Now that I work from home, I have a much better balance because no one can see me fucking around when I finish my tasks early. Just because it takes me 4 hours to do what takes my boomer coworkers 8 hours to do, doesn't mean I should have to do more than them. I currently have the highest stats on my team. I am also the only millennial, and when I finish my work I'm expected to pick up the slack for my coworkers who can only type 30 words a minute with a 75% accuracy rate. Yet, I'm the lazy and entitled one because I have more downtime. That we don't take our jobs seriously. I had to sit my peer 55 plus down and tell him that the millennials he was bitching about were the same age as the very qualified and mission-focused person he's been working with for the past decade. We're upper management. I get extra salty about the boomers that are constantly on their phones playing Candy Crush or reposting misinformation on Facebook, but will be the first to say we are addicted to tech. Okay. Sorry. I believe that is just the shame talking because you can't make a pivot table and I can, Kevin. I'm getting really tired of hearing about us lying around expecting handouts and not working. Especially when it's a situation where the person saying it is standing in a room with a lot of millennials, all of whom have jobs, which is every single time I've heard this said in real life. Like, who here is lying around doing nothing? Who's your example? Oh, it's your neighbor's best friend's cousin's son, he doesn't have a job and lies on the couch all day. Okay. A lot of millennials I know have multiple jobs, including monetizing their hobbies, and still just barely getting by. When we are looked down upon for needing to use YouTube, etc. for learning tasks, e.g. changing a tire, that our parents were taught by our grandparents but the former never took the time to teach us. That we're entitled. Having worked with the general public for over a decade, I can assure you the overwhelming majority of entitled and rude behavior comes from the over 50s crowd. Edit, also they keep telling us to be more financially responsible but when we are there like no, not like that. Can't wait to tell my judgmental extended family that I'm having a backyard wedding because I don't have $30,000 just lying around. My parents are already pissed about it. You must go to college and get a degree. You don't want to be flipping burgers or changing the oil in some rich guy's car. Asterisk does that, incurs a lot of debt. Asterisk these irresponsible millennials and their elitist liberal educations. If they'd been smart, they'd go to community college and transfer, go to trade school. They won't just take a job, any job to pay the bills. They could flip burgers. Why should we pay for their mistakes? I was talking about this with my dad the other day and he was like, we didn't force you to go to college. No. Nobody straight up said I had to go to college, but they did spend an awful lot of time talking about how only fuck-ups don't go to college and making sure that entry-level jobs required a degree. Technically it's like 39-year-olds to 22-year-olds. That range needs to be split in two. I'm 35 and don't know WTF the 26-year-olds I work with are talking about half the time. As an American, it's basically that we're inheriting a system that nobody trusts us to run. All the people who represent us are 2 to 3 times older than us, the older generations are refusing or unable to retire, which is preventing us from actually entering the job market. When someone makes mention of some challenge teenagers are doing like eating Tide Pods and people are like, ugh, millennials. No. Just because 4 to 5 people did something stupid and then the news decided to take it and run with it and make it sound way more widespread than it is, doesn't mean you get to generalize a whole generation. Secondly, millennials are practically the age of the parents of the TikTok generation. It's not a generic term for any young person doing something you don't like. That people don't own a house because they're lazy. I have taken the time to explain the loss of buying power, stagnant wages, automation, contract employees, lack of job security, cost of living in other areas, etc. play way more into it. I just shoveled like 20 of my elderly neighbors' driveways this morning after snowpocalypse. By Wednesday, while chatting they'll talk about those lazy millennials like they're still 20-year-olds. Bro, I'm 38 and got 4 kids and own the biggest house of this block. Millennial. Cannot convince them of this, ever. Edit. I know that I'm at the older end of millennial, maybe in a micro-generation like Xennial or Oregon Trail generation. But most lists out me as a millennial, with it starting in '81. Generations are kinda bullshit wishy-washy stuff anyways. Plus right as I was getting into adulting, graduated college, party and focus on job a few years, then start transitioning into family life around 10 to 12 years ago. That's right at the time when the "millennials killing X" meme was starting up, as email foods right as I was of age to start doing those things. So, I feel like I am lumped in there since when the criticism started, a lot of it was blasted right at my age group at the time. They just have kept blasting the same age just out of college age group as millennials for over a decade now, lol. Participation trophies, these were for our boomer parents, not for us. And now we are blamed by them for being entitled because we got them. We got blamed for spring break COVID outbreaks. We aren't in college anymore. Edit went to bed and woke up to 25,000 likes. Thanks for the awards. Millennials has just become a term for young person with ideals I don't agree with. When people call teens and early 20s millennials. That was like 10 to 15 years ago. I've seen old people refer to Generation X members down to junior high students as millennials. It just means person under 50 who I don't like, apparently. Yeah, I'm 34, my son is as close to the age boomers think a millennial is as I am. I, for one, am tired of hearing about the things we've killed. Tastes change all the time, this is not new. There's an anecdote that JFK killed the hat industry. Hats used to be a staple of American men's fashion. There were dedicated hat shops, Then JFK came along with his public image of a suave man with impeccable hair. Hats vanished from the mainstream fairly quickly, and the fedora has never recovered.